You used to carry around a bunch of papers and tests to read and grade. But now, it's all in one place. You log in, you go to My Courses, and you can see all your classes broken down by units, lessons, and due dates. You can track your students' progress in everything. With 5 main subjects and over 100 electives, you have a complete curriculum for your students. All of it biblically based and Christ-centered. Plus, students enjoy it because of the variety in the presentation of the material. They can read, listen to audio clips, watch videos, and even play games. But just because it's online doesn't mean you don't interact in the classroom. You can use the dynamic lessons of Ignitia to engage students in a whole new way. Your class can view the content together and then discuss it. You can even tailor content and make custom tests and quizzes, or create a completely customized course. And Ignitia grades approximately 85% of the work for you. When you're not in the classroom, you can go to Messages and see a record of communication with your students. If they need help, they can send you a message, and you can respond. Because not all students learn in the same way and at the same pace, Ignitia has been designed for customized learning. If your student is behind in a subject, you can tailor the course in a way that best suits them. That way they can all learn together at their own pace and in their own style, and still be in class together. With all of these great benefits and features, it should be no surprise that students who use Ignitia show increased productivity, improvement in their grades, and greater enjoyment in their academic pursuits. Watch your students grow.
Okay, my name is Dr. Bliss, and I'm the co-founder of Christos International. We're an educational organization that uses the Ignitia platform to create an environment where students can accelerate at their own particular rate. I'm going to use an analogy here to describe this educational theory to you. Students go at their own pace in the Ignitia program. And depending upon that pace, they also can be slowed down or speeded up. Their level of proficiency required to move forward can be adjusted. This requires a series of testing to be done before the students enter into the Ignitia program. That testing is called a PEP, Personal Education Plan, integrates 4 basic constructs. The first construct is the achievement of the children. Second construct is the aptitude of the children. The third construct is the goals and aspirations of the children. And the fourth construct is the support that the child has. And these 4 put together to help shape the secondary level curriculum that the students are having. We use a classical model of education, which is being now integrated into the Ignitia program. Ignitia is not based on a classical program, but it is based on a module educational system. But let me explain here for a second. You see, basically, it's important to understand that education is somewhat in today's era, not in our era, but in today's era, is somewhat like man flight. The individual student has access to information and knowledge that we never had. And that access requires that that educational process be sculpted around their actual capacity. So as opposed to a textbook, which everybody's reading at the same time and being led by a particular teacher who's then trying to modify the curriculum to the individual students if they can or have the time, Ignitia allows each student to go at their own pace and their own rate. So most educational curriculum would be where my fingernails are, that basically only the middle part of the school body is aimed at in the curriculum. Now you can advance that if you want and kind of, make the curve go over here by a little bit more rigor, but there's a central place where the educational process occurs. Now, that process can be extended out way out here in the Ignitia program, right, way out to the sides, by students that are slower getting a slower pace educational process, students that are faster getting a faster pace. In the midst of that, there's also a process of lift, and I use the thrust versus lift dynamic as an analogy. So the thrust is how fast the student is going in the program. The lift is the complex level of thinking that they need. So I'm going to use this here as an analogy. This is from the Wright brothers and from uh, Kitty Hawk, but this is flat now. There's very little lift, and if we increase the airfoil, right, we'll have a wing that will produce a fair amount of lift. Now the lift comes in through the passion of the teacher. And this can happen through 2 or 3 different methodologies using the Ignitia program. The lift that is designed in the program itself as it stands is somewhat limited. It doesn't have a lot of the impassioned teacher that is sculpting the minds of its individual students. It's much more based on a comprehension and summary-based educational experience. So the higher order thinking, which we're trying to produce in the students, really can't happen through the computer system. It has to happen with the interaction of a professor and a teacher, professor, teacher, and the student. So that interaction can happen through the program, and we have a methodology where we take each unit, and in each unit we have a special project, and that special project is then filled by the teacher who is teaching on site, or by an off-site teacher of record who is an expert in that particular field. Now that off-site teacher is asynchronistic. They're not doing the presentation live, it's a video, but then they have papers that are written as a result of the lecture, and students are taught on how to take excellent lecture notes. So what happens is the students are equipped for their college experience into deeper level, higher order thinking, where they will analyze and in the process also evaluate the subject matter that they're dealing with according to the discipline that they're studying, which requires actually an expert. Now, I've used a lot of words here to describe the experience of what we're talking about. It's important to understand that this experience, this Christos experience, which is using both the lift of educated, expert teachers, right? PhD, master's level teachers who have a passion for their subject, using that to create the lift, right? With the speed that the student can go at, right? With the Ignitia program, combining the best of both these worlds. This is a very different educational experience than we had as children, okay? Very different process. And so it's a little bit troublesome because you think, well, they're just sitting in front of computers. They're not just sitting in front of computers. The comprehension-based thinking is sitting in front of computers. What's the facts? What's the dates? What are the formulas and theories? But the actual teaching is done on a different plane and a different level. One of the problems is training teachers to teach. So we have a teacher's classical Christian training process. It's a semester-long process. Many teachers haven't been taught how to teach in a classical modality. We go in and teach you the philosophical foundations. It's part of the program. Once the teachers are there, and we have a process of them being mentored into expert teaching using the Ignitia system, okay? So here's the problem. We're not at best when you start off, okay? We go from good to better to best. And if we're trying to assume why isn't this program working the way you said it was, which was this high level of proficiency and this high level of achievement and this high level of higher order thinking, it's because we haven't gotten to best yet. The question is to start off with good, right? Let's just get good. Christ-centered Christian curriculum at an affordable level that is utilizable in any school system that has 10 to 15 students to having up to 200 students. A very simple system, but it requires training. It requires expertise. And in order for that training and that expertise to occur, the school itself has to be aligned with the state and federal laws. There's a plumb line that has to be set. And if that plumb line isn't set, if the administrative dynamics of the school is not set and the plumb lines are skewed, everything will fall tangential to the plumb line. So you have to have a firm foundation. And a lot of times when we come into schools, we have to spend time readjusting the foundation back to where the plumb line is, which is excellence and the best standards according to state, federal laws and the practice of Christian education. So we're happy to come in and work with schools who have not yet set their foundations. That's fine. But once those foundations are set, we're able to go from good to better to best. I hope this helps you understand what the process is here with Christos International. There's more details to be had, more aspects to be had. We have different levels of program. We have a covenant school where we come in and actually handle the management. We handle all the state and federal requirements. And the reason that the state and federal requirements are very important is because we're looking for state funding. Okay, to not compromise Christ in any way whatsoever, but we're looking for the state through vouchers or for tax credits to provide income, and it can run anywhere from $4,000 to $5,000 per student to $9,000 or $10,000 per student, and we're looking for that money. We have to provide an accountability to the state. So this level of excellence must be part of the program. So we'll come in and help any school that needs the help to establish that level, to be able to have excellence in their bookkeeping, excellence in their administration, excellence throughout their teaching staff, and most importantly, to be able to support the core objective, which is to love our students as image bearers in Christ. So everything that I've said all comes back to the issue of supporting the Imagi Dei, the image-bearing capacity of each individual student, and all this is designed around that goal and objective. So I know there are many questions to be had. I am available for discussion with any school that is wanting to engage our program. As I said, we have a covenant level school where we take on the administrative aspect, and then we have a constituent level school where we come in a support aspect. And we're happy to do that. We're also happy to provide an individual bid for providing the Ignitia curriculum and asynchronistic teachers. So we have a bid, we have a constituent-based, and we have a covenant-based operation. Thank you.